Today's video is sponsored by Energy Sage. Visit the link in the description to find local verified solar and heat pump experts in your area, as well as local community solar projects you could become a part of. Happy July 4th! It's that time of year again where, as a Brit living in the US, even one who now has US citizenship, I get the bizarre experience of celebrating Happy Kicking Out the Brits Day. And I say that as someone who is most certainly not a royalist, nor a nationalist, nor in fact supportive of any of the horrible, despicable things that my birth country has done throughout time, or indeed that the country of my mother's birth, Canada, has done throughout time, or indeed that of my new assumed home, the USA. That said, nor am I happy with some of the things that the UK is currently doing, and I'm hopeful that the outcome of the UK general election taking place on July 4th, which is in the future when I'm filming this, is one that doesn't suffer under a government which is clearly more interested in keeping rich people rich and fossil fuel companies polluting and keeping minorities othered than it is in actually governing. But hey, I guess by now the results are known, so yay for change, or boo for more of the same? This is a pick-your-own ending based on the results. But politics aside, this week in the US is all about celebrating freedom and what that actually means for you. And yes, while there will be the usual pomp and circumstance that accompanies July 4th, as well as a bunch of flag waving that I've never frankly been comfortable with, regardless of where the flag being flown is from. But hey, I can get behind the idea of independence, the ability to make choices for yourself, rather than having someone far, far away foist them onto you. Making choices that are good for your family and good for your life, and I hope good for the world around you. So, today, instead of all of that nationalism I am very uncomfortable with, I'm a citizen of the world as far as I'm concerned, and I grew up in the 1980s when we were told anyone could do anything. I'm going to focus on ways that you, and I, can declare energy independence from fossil fuels, big corporations, and become better consumers too. When we discuss energy independence, we traditionally talk about ways that we can generate and store our own power using things like photovoltaic solar panels, wind turbines, and battery backup systems to provide resilience to our home electrical system when bad things happen to our local grid. Living here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm certainly grateful that I've been able to achieve some level of energy resiliency for myself. For a start, I have a sizable 15 kilowatt peak solar array on my home. I have a smaller non-grid connected solar array I'm building right now, and spoiler, a small battery pack that's arriving on review from a company that we're going to be making a video about very soon. But we also have our Ford F-150 Lightning and the Ford Home Integration System, and that allows us to get power from the battery in our truck when the grid goes down. And as we've discussed plenty on this channel before, there are now a slew of different EVs available, either with vehicle-to-load capabilities, which means you can power small appliances directly from a built-in mains inverter in the vehicle, or vehicle-to-home capabilities, meaning you can power larger appliances in your home, just as I can with my system. There are, of course, also static battery storage products you can buy, ranging from things like expensive bespoke systems like Tesla's Powerwall, through to DIY solutions that you can build yourself with a little ingenuity. But while that, and I'll admit the thumbnail for this video, focuses on home energy generation, there's a whole lot more you can do to ensure you have as much independence from large corporations and big oil as possible. Since we are just talking about energy generation, let's focus on energy use and how we use it in our homes. If you happen to be someone who lives in a place where electricity is still relatively cheap, you might have not thought about it much, especially if you have a generally clean grid. But at the end of the day, even if you're someone who doesn't think too much about the cost of power and how you consume it, we should all be thinking about the electrical sources we use and the carbon footprint of the power that we're consuming from the electrical grid. As I'm sure you know, the average electrical grid in most countries is made up of a variety of different power sources from different places, ranging from fossil fuels like oil, natural gas and coal, through to renewable energy sources like geothermal, wind, solar and wave. The good news is, of course, that the electrical grid en masse has become greener around the world in the last decade, and according to forecasts from various sources, is only predicted to get greener. The US, for example, has seen a massive increase in newly commissioned grid-scale solar projects in the last few years, and that's making a massive impact to the overall carbon footprint of the power that Americans are consuming. But in order to really help gain local energy independence in your community, choosing to wait until times of the day when power is primarily coming from renewable sources will help boost your energy independence and the energy independence of where you live. I know that's not true energy independence, but it does help reduce your reliance on the grid's fossil fuels, if that makes sense. If you're a bit of a nerd, there are plenty of cool apps you can download and websites like electricitymaps.com aggregating the current carbon footprint of your local utility. Many modern EVs now have the option to let you pick when to charge, and some have the option to let you tell the car to only charge when electricity is at its greenest. Smart charging stations also offer similar features if your car doesn't offer it natively. And if you're not looking at an automated solution, it is often pretty easy to predict when grid power is at its greenest to allow you to do things like the laundry or washing up the dishes. For example, on very sunny days or days when there's a lot of wind, you're likely to see a lower carbon footprint, while wet and cloudy days will be the worst days for high carbon electricity. And to avoid putting extra strain on your local grid, using power outside of peak demand periods, basically a few hours in the morning and a few hours at night, loosely centred around rush hour for folks who work 9 to 5, should help you lower your reliance on fossil fuels and improve your overall energy independence. As will, of course, being smart about your energy use at home, turning off things when you don't need them, and trying to avoid overall wastage. I know some people will argue with me, but renewable energy generation, even if it's in the form of a large wind farm or solar farm, makes for a more resilient grid that's more independent of both fossil fuels but also large power stations that can pose a single point of failure. And that's because renewable sources of energy generation are usually far more distributed around the grid, which makes it harder for the grid to be brought to its knees, either by a weather or human-caused event. Grid resilience enhances energy independence. But gaining energy independence isn't just about making sure that the energy you use at home is local and renewable. It's about making smarter, more informed, sustainable choices about the world in which you live. That includes things like picking transportation choices that make sense for where you're going and what you're doing. I mean, sure, electric car ownership can help make your transportation more energy independent than fossil fuels, especially if you have at-home charging stations. But do you really need to take your EV? Could you cycle, walk, or take public transit instead? And sometimes the answer will be no, but asking yourself that question as to which transportation option is best for your next trip, well, it will help reduce your reliance on our personal boxes on wheels, reduce congestion, and yes, also reduce your community's reliance on fossil fuels. Because a road with fewer cars is less congested, so less fossil fuel is burnt for a given number of vehicles travelling. Look to lower the carbon footprint of the things you buy regularly as well. Shop at local farmers markets for in-season, locally grown food rather than buying heavily packaged supermarket fare shipped in from a really long way away. Yeah, I know, it is nice being able to buy tomatoes in the middle of winter, but those tomatoes are either grown in heated greenhouses or shipped from a very long way away, and that's going to affect your overall energy independence and carbon footprint. The same thing goes for non-edibles too. Considering where the thing you're buying came from and what its carbon footprint was can help you make informed decisions about what to buy and where to buy it from. While I'm on the subject of shopping and food, try and set aside more time to cook. While that obviously can be a challenge in today's modern world, setting aside some time to learn to cook from scratch will actually help you reduce your carbon footprint and increase your energy independence. And probably your health too. Why? Because if you're always planning meals to specific recipes, or worse still, buying pre-made packages and sauces, you're relying extra heavily on stores having exactly what you need when you want it. Instead, learning basic cooking skills and knowing how to substitute different ingredients for one another, or knowing what basic flavours work well together, will help you reduce the amount of wastage you'll get in your fridge, reduce your reliance on prepackaged stuff, and out-of-season food. Moreover, the more accomplished you become in the kitchen, the less likely it is you'll end up eating heavily processed foods, which, as I noted, is better for your health too. And you can even turn scraps into snacks. Things like turning potato peelings and carrot peelings into crisps is a really fun thing to do, especially if you have kids. One step further for all of this, of course, is to join a local community garden or allotment, or to try and grow some of your own food at home. While you might initially think this would require you to spend a lot of money on tools and equipment and seeds, you'd actually be surprised. Thanks to community-driven gardening programs and solar punks around the world, many major cities now have their own seed libraries where local people can obtain local, climate-appropriate seeds and vegetable starts for their garden, and at the end of the season, where they can take collected seeds from their garden to help replenish the seed library for next year. Some community groups even have programs set up to loan you the kind of tools that you might not need all that often, things like chainsaws and post hole diggers, so you don't have to fork out a lot of money for your own. Again, this all reduces your reliance on large corporations and increases your own domestic energy independence, while also lowering your carbon footprint. While some recent studies have claimed that urban community farmed food can sometimes be more carbon intensive than crops farmed in large rural fields by mega companies, I'd argue that not having to travel far to get fresh produce is a major bonus, and if you have kids, it's also a fantastic learning experience. And frankly, I still view this as very much being on the side of increasing your resilience while also increasing your energy independence. And in much the same way as you should try to look towards local food, look towards sustainable, low-carbon clothing too. Of course, it is harder to find local clothing stores, but keeping away from fast fashion and opting instead for clothes that will last you a long time and are made of low-carbon materials will really help improve your energy independence. When it comes to material choices, remember that linen and bamboo have a far lower resource use when compared to cotton. We've covered energy and food, and in a moment I'm going to talk about open source and right to repair. But first, let's have a word from today's video sponsor, Energy Sage. Energy Sage helps homeowners connect with local verified solar installers across the US and now heat pump specialists in select markets who really know their stuff and can help you navigate the process of installing solar panels, help you join a community solar program, or get a heat pump installed. We used Energy Sage when we were looking for installers willing to help us put solar panels on the roof of our home. And our Energy Sage installers were professional, knowledgeable, and even put us in touch with an amazing local credit union that allowed us to finance our solar panels for as low a monthly payment as possible. So follow the links below to sign up for either of Energy Sage's free, no-obligation services and get that ball rolling today. If you do choose to use an Energy Sage installer for your project, we will also get a small referral fee, so you'll be supporting the channel too. So you're being careful about your energy generation and use, you're choosing appropriate transportation solutions for trips, and you're supporting local agriculture and trying to cook with local rather than shipped in produce. What's next? Next is looking to make smart choices about repairability of the things you own and want to own. I'm sure it's no secret, we're big right to repair advocates on this channel, and we believe that learning repair skills yourself can not only empower you to repair rather than replace, but it can also help protect you from being taken advantage of by unscrupulous sorts. For example, if you understand the basics of how something works, you will less likely to fall prey to dishonest repair professionals looking to make a quick buck and sell you a new shiny thing. And at the same time, if you understand the basics and something truly is beyond repair, it's much easier for you to make informed decisions about replacing whatever the thing is. which, again, I'll argue, falls into increasing your knowledge and thus your independence. If you're looking to learn skills, be it mechanical car stuff or learning how to sew, again, your local library as well as your local makerspace are great places to start. Knowing how to use a multimeter or a soldering iron is a fantastic starting point to learning how to fix broken electronics, and knowing how to darn and how to sew can ensure your clothes won't get just thrown out the moment you spy a hole. Because I have a serger, which is a fancy sewing machine that can do edge stitching and cut away excess fabric, I've been able to keep several shopping bags we have in rotation long after they would have otherwise been thrown away. Sure, they're not the fanciest or prettiest bags, but they do the job. Knowing how to fix and mend some things. Knowing how to fix and mend sometimes feels like a bit of a generational thing, and sometimes a class thing. We personally didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, and I had two very awesome role models who showed me a lot of the skills I use today to fix and repair. And my parents learned those skills as children of families who had endured the Second World War and the make, do and mend mentality. But frankly, there's no reason that we can't use that methodology today moving forwards. Keeping things running for as long as possible before replacing them does help reduce our reliance on goods shipped thousands of miles around the world, and all of the inherent carbon footprints associated with that. But while that's a very lovely romantic notion, there are sadly times when we do need to buy new things, and that brings me to my final point. Buy stuff when you need to, but buy stuff that you know you'll be able to fix. Take my coffee grinder, for example. It wasn't the cheapest coffee grinder I could have purchased, but I purchased it because the company who makes it, Baratza, is known for its good after-sales support, sensible design, and willingness to let its customers repair things. This past weekend, in fact, I managed to jam up my coffee grinder motor, which caused an internal fuse to pop. But because of how the grinder was designed and made, and because I have one of those iFixit screwdriver kits with all the fancy bits in it, I was able to just open up the grinder, test the fuse, realise it was broken, order a new one, and get it working for the next day's coffee, all in just a few hours. That beats buying a closed-loop device that requires you to ship it halfway around the world every time it breaks. Learn, share, and grow. And listen to the world around you. It makes for a smarter, safer, and more informed bubble for you to call home. And it makes your life more energy and resource independent as well. Thanks for joining me today. And if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them below in our Discord chat room, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of the more than 1,500 people who help fund this channel through Patreon and YouTube. They help cover our bills, pay our team, and they make sure that we can remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers you can sign up for, from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, just over $10 a year. A massive welcome to our newest supporters: Carol Bulawa, Rolfondo, Michael Owen, Winter, and Wilton Live. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your week of fame. And of course, if you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations. We even have a good old-fashioned P.O. box that you can reach us at. Address you'll find linked below. And of course, if you're in need of some swag, you'll find our swag store in the down below as well. This month, we are celebrating Pride with an amazing new t-shirt design by our in-house artist and animator, Erin. You can get yours today by heading to our Redbubble store. We've also got some fantastic content coming up, so make sure that you've hit the subscribe button on either PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video but we think this one is also well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving!